Hello, I'm very pleased to introduce the Bob Box to you. It's our contribution, I think, to Laudato Si. The Pope is asking us to consider the whole world as our common home, that we're equally responsible for looking after and nourishing and making good those great gifts that this planet offers to us. And he's pointing out to us in Laudato Si that there are all too many people in our world who are in distress because of climate change, environment, because of extractives and things going wrong with the facilities and the assets that we have in our world. So our Bob Box is quite simple. It's a little house that you can use either for a bird or for a bat. It's your choice. And that means that we're looking after our own local environment. But when you purchase this kit, you will be giving money to CAFOD, which they can then use with their partners around the world in some of the poorest countries in the world for the benefit of the peoples living there. And that's so important that we actually can work with our brothers and sisters, even in the poorest countries in the world, to create a better quality of life and sustainable livelihoods for them. And whilst it's good for our own local environment and will help people in the poorest countries, the packs are actually assembled by prisoners here, which is helping them in their rehabilitation during their prison sentences here in this country. So I offer you the Bob Box as a good way of being part of Pope Francis's invitation to us to care for our common home in more than one way at once.
Bishop John, Laudato Si is many things to many people, but to you, what in essence is Laudato Si all about?
Well, Laudato Si is a letter written by Pope Francis to everybody in the world, not just to members of the Church. And he's saying a timely reminder to us that we have this planet, which is our common home, and we're not really caring for it in the way that we should. And we've got all these wonderful resources that are part of our planet, but we're really not using them in a sustainable way. And he says that in some places we're making our world resemble a pile of filth, and I think that's probably quite true. We're really disregarding so much of what we have and the beauty of our world, and he's now saying it's time to care for the world as a whole and not just the parts that interest us the most.
Bishop John, your support for Bob Box has been really warm and supporting and encouraging. What sorts of contribution do you think the Bob Box can have to helping us to realise the vision of Laudato Si?
Well, I think it's a very simple concept, isn't it? But the Bob Box is local, but its impact could be global, because we're not only looking after our own local environment and helping birds and bats by having Bob Boxes, but we're actually then contributing to the partnerships that CAFOD has in some of the poorest countries in the world and making a real difference to people's lives and helping them with sustainable life.
Bishop John, you've been on many trips to see CAFOD's work around the world, and I know that you've just come back from Niger. What impact has CAFOD and its partners been having in Niger?
Well, Niger is the poorest country in the world, number 188 on the scale, and it's 80% Sahara Desert, and there are people there living in extreme poverty, and the real problem, the main problem, is the lack of water. Where there is water, there's good fertilized ground ready to be cultivated, but it's a matter of making sure that there's water at the times of the year when they need it in available quantities. And CAFOD is working very hard to make sure that that water is irrigated and supplied to people who need it most. And then there's all the work that goes on in gender equality and in education. There's far too few children going into secondary education, only about 6.7%.
So what are the main challenges facing the people of Niger and our partners working over there?
Well, apart from this need to provide water in the right seasons for growing food, there's a real problem over education. Very, very few children actually get into secondary education at all. It's down to about 2% for girls, and I think about 7% for boys. So there's need to invest in schooling is vitally important for their future, for the future prosperity of their country as a whole. And if we deny them education, then we really are denying them a dignity. So CAFOD is working hard in helping to provide for education for everybody.
CAFOD works with many projects abroad. Of all the trips that you've made, which project stands out for you?
Well, there'll be a lot of different projects which have made a big impression on me, but I think probably the one that seemed most dramatic in the results it's having was both in Burma, Myanmar, and Bangladesh, where hundreds of square kilometres of land near the sea have been flooded by the salt waters of the ocean and ruined good farming land. And CAFOD, with its partners, have been there helping people to make new farming methods that are actually helping them to grow new crops in different ways and also to farm fish in a way they've never done before, so that although their systems of farming are changing a great deal, people are benefiting and they still have livelihoods, which is most encouraging to see, but very depressing to think that climate change is having such an impact in some places that we can't even imagine.
So our communities and our country's been incredibly generous in responding to the DEC appeal. What assurance can you give them that their money will be spent wisely?
Well, as a trustee of CAFOD, I made a pledge to myself that I'd visit every year some of our partners. And I've done that over the last 10 years. And I can't think of one occasion where I haven't been met with great gratitude by the people in the villages and in the towns where these projects have been working, where they've told me about the difference that it's been made to their lives for the better, and that the money that's given really does make a great difference, a very constructive and positive difference to what they're able to do for themselves in building their livelihoods, in sustaining their communities, in building schools. In so many different ways their lives are bettered because of the generosity of people at home. And I try to come back here and tell people about where I've been, what I've seen, and the gratitude that's been expressed. I can't doubt that thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have benefited from the kindness of people here through CAFOD.
There's been a lot of coverage in the media about the 0.7% that the government, the country give to aid. What have you got to say to encourage the government to carry on doing that?
Well, I think 0.7% isn't a great deal. When we look at what we have, the prosperity that we have here at home, yes, certainly we've got our own social needs and we must be looking to those, but to give 0.7% to some of the poorest countries in the world makes a world of difference for them. It shows our common humanity and our care for other people. It makes a great difference to the way people can live their lives with dignity. And I think it's very important that we continue to pledge that 0.7% at least for the benefit of brothers and sisters around the world.
CAFOD couldn't achieve what it does at home and abroad without our incredible volunteers. Have you got a message for our volunteers?
I think that our volunteers are wonderful. They make the working of CAFOD possible. It means that CAFOD isn't just an administrative office somewhere that collects money and sends it abroad to work with partnerships. It makes it a lively concern for people here, something that they do, they enjoy, they're part of, but they communicate the good work of CAFOD to much wider communities around our countries. And that's vitally important. It means that CAFOD is immediate and personal to people, and we've got to look to increase the work of volunteers, but we've also to appreciate that without the volunteers we wouldn't be where we are now, which is a thriving organisation which is answering people's real needs around the world.
So Bishop John, this is what we'll be making this afternoon. It's our CAFOD Salford practical response to Laudato Si, our bob box.
Very good.
So I can just show you how it works. If people want it for birds, they just remove the plug and the birds will enter through that hole. If they want it for bats, you plug that up and you just remove a piece of flooring from the inside so that the bats can climb up the ladders into the box that way. And that bat entrance is suitable for all UK, Northern European and North American bat species.
Thank you very much. Let's make one.
So now you can see how Bob Box, our local Salford response to Laudato Si, will have a global impact.